In your purple corner, we have Princess Shuri, Queen Ramonda, and the Wakandans. And in your blue corner, we have Namor and the Talokans. Who will come out on top? And does it really matter?
Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.
What's up, April here, and welcome back to The Struggle Is Real, my YouTube channel where I do TV and movie reactions and reviews, all for your viewing pleasure, and also mine. Today I'll be reviewing Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which is the sequel to 2018's Black Panther. As this is an in-depth review, a spoiler alert is now going into effect. Now, I didn't get a chance to see this movie in theaters, so I was actually really excited to watch it once it dropped on Disney+. And I must say off the bat, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought it was an actually really solid follow-up to the original Black Panther movie. Everyone knew going into Wakanda Forever that it was going to be very difficult to fill the shoes of Chadwick Boseman playing Black Panther. Like, no one was expecting those shoes to be filled. His absence was obviously very much felt throughout the movie. However, I thought that Ryan Coogler did a great job and the cast did a great job of honoring him just by giving all of his Marvel hero shots in that opening Marvel logo. I thought that was really beautiful, and starting the movie off with his funeral and how Shuri and Ramonda and all of the Wakandans were actually mourning his loss was really beautiful. But just the moments before or prior to his death, kind of like how they wrote that into the movie and the weight that it took on Shuri for her feeling as if she wasn't able to save him, and how that kind of like played into the rest of the movie, I actually did really like. I thought they did a great job of honoring him and tying in how his presence was missed, not only for, you know, us as the viewers, but also for the characters that existed within the movie, and how his death was not only affecting his family but also affecting Wakanda politically, and the choices that the Wakandans and Princess Shuri and Queen Ramonda made moving forward in dealing with his death. I thought that was really well done. But I think that the movie successfully kind of ushered in a new era of what Black Panther is going to be for the Wakandans and within the MCU within this movie's runtime. Now, with that being said, the runtime of this movie was like 2 hours and 40 something minutes. That's a bit hefty. Now, granted, the movie did have a lot to get through because portions of the movie were spent just showing how Wakanda was dealing with the loss of T'Challa and the political ramifications of him not being present either, which I thought was interesting because it very much showed how Queen Ramonda was dealing with not only losing her son, but also losing their leader and their symbol for strength for their country. But I feel like in her desire to deal with things politically, Queen Ramonda actually kind of like overlooked the severity of Namor's threat. And speaking of Namor, I thought that the introduction of this character, or the introduction of Namor, aka the Submariner's character, into the MCU was actually really well done. I thought the actor who played Namor, Tenoch, did an amazing job really honing in on Namor's actual characteristics, which is like he's about his people, period, point blank. Like, that's what it is. He will do whatever it takes to make sure that his people are safe and make sure that they have the livelihood that they deserve. Now, what was interesting to me is that after Wakanda Forever came out in theaters, I had heard that a lot of people had took issue with the way that the Wakandans were manhandled by the Talokan people, and guess what? They absolutely were manhandled. But I don't understand why people have a problem with that, because if you think about it, they are not completely human. Like, they're not. Namor is a mutant. Like, he is a mutant. So any scene that you see with him beating people's ass, yeah, that tracks. And any scene where you see the Talokan people whipping the Wakandans' ass, that also tracks. You know why? Because they are not human. Now, here's the thing. If you go pound for pound and look at like the Wakandans and look at the Talocan people, which are basically Atlanteans, but we're not going to get into that because, you know, Marvel decides to rename things all the time for the sake of the MCU, but whatever, fine. We're going to call them Talocan people. That's what they call them in the movie. That's what we're going to call them.
His mama named him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
So if you look at the Talocan people and you look at the Wakandans, they both have vibranium. So on that aspect, they are equal, okay? Both of them have incredible fighting skills. We're there with both of them. Now, here's where things start to get a little funky. The Talocan people have the physical prowess. They literally are, they're basically watered superpower people. They have enhanced strength and agility, all of that because they live in aquatic environments. Wakandans are human at the end of the day, as smart as they are and as skilled as they are in fighting and other aspects. At the end of the day, they still are very much human, which is why towards the end of the movie, it took them building basically suits of armor in an Iron Man-esque way for them to even remotely be on the same playing field as the Talocan people. And speaking of, in the end battle with the Wakandans versus the Talocan people, I personally didn't understand the thought process between having that battle, or at least the decision by Shuri and the Wakandans to have that battle be in the middle of the ocean. I know they were trying to draw Namor and his people out so they could have this battle, but that didn't make any sense because they basically got their strength from the water and they were never going to win that fight. Even if you're using the plan as a ruse, which is basically what it was still an ill thought out plan because you're basically sacrificing a bunch of people just to get like one person, and that was never going to work. I like the introduction of Namor and the Talocans. I thought that was well done. I thought that Shuri's journey into basically going from, you know, princess to essentially like mourning her family and then like having to basically become the new Black Panther, I thought that was an interesting character arc for her as well. One of the problems though that I had with this movie, and that kind of like goes back to like Namor versus Shuri versus, you know, the Talocans versus the Wakandans, is essentially like that power dynamic. So I know that people had issue with, you know, how Wakanda basically got their asses beat, which once again, as I said before, they absolutely did. But a part of that is actually kind of Marvel's fault, like the MCU's fault, because what Marvel typically ends up doing in these movies all the time is they make the powers of the superheroes and the villains or the anti-heroes or whatever that they bring into these movies, their powers go on a roller coaster ride from movie to movie to movie, in terms of like how powerful they actually are, which is why in some movies you'll have a character that's able to do all of these things and is that extremely powerful and strong or smart, and then you go to another movie and they're just, you know, like
just standing around not doing much.
And you're just wondering what happened to them, like what are they doing? So with Black Panther in the first movie, you know, Black Panther was very much fighting, it was infighting essentially, because in the first Black Panther movie you have T'Challa going against other humans, but you also have him going against Killmonger, who in terms of skill set has the same skills as T'Challa, and then when you put the Black Panther suit on both of them or enable them to both have the heart-shaped herb to get that strength, you know, it's kind of like equal, like pound for pound. This was not the case in Wakanda Forever. You basically have humans who are extremely skillful, smart, and resourceful that have this resource, which is vibranium, that has enabled them to enrich their country and become, you know, technologically superior. But then you have an indigenous race of people that also have the same skill set, except they are superpowered. So with that alone, they were always going to get their asses beat. Sorry, not sorry, but it is what it is. I didn't think that took away from the movie at all. I think that that made it realistic. And I hope that they keep that level of power for Namor and the Talokans across the MCU. Like, don't have them actually display how powerful they can be, especially in aquatic situations, and then we go into the next movie and it's like, you know, they suck. Like, because that's pretty much, unfortunately, what Marvel does. That's why you can have Scarlet Witch in Infinity War not be able to beat some of Thanos' children, but then in Avengers Endgame, all of a sudden, she's able to take on Thanos by herself. You gotta figure out what you wanna do, Marvel, in terms of displaying people's powers across the movies and the TV shows, so then you don't have people wondering why everybody looks crazy depending on what movie or TV show they're watching. That's just a fact. Also, a new character was introduced, Riri Williams, who ends up being Ironheart, which is a Marvel Comics character who basically kind of essentially creates her own Iron Man suit, which is something that she basically did in the movie as well, because she's basically a genius. I thought the actress who was playing her and her character was cool, but I also felt like it was almost like some of her scenes were kind of an afterthought, because I can see that Marvel kind of like brought in her character because Ironheart is very much supposed to have a Disney Plus like spin-off TV series, and dropping her character into an existing property makes it easier for them to like tie in Ironheart's character once they, you know, get to Disney Plus. But at the same time, I feel like her character only was important just to kind of like move along like the plot. Like, she created the vibranium detector that kind of like set off Namor's alarms to begin with, and then like once they got down to Talokan, her character kind of got sidelined, and then when they kind of like needed a suit again to kind of like fight the Talokan fighters, all of a sudden like her character became important again, and then by the end of the movie she's really not important anymore. So I kind of thought that was like a little bit of an afterthought. I did like her character though, so it'll be interesting to see what her Disney Plus TV show is like, but I thought that was interesting. I also thought that the action scenes outside of the ones between like the Wakandans and like the Talokans, or like Namor versus everyone else, I thought that the fight scene between Okoye and Atuma was actually like probably one of the best action sequences in the movie. Well, first Okoye versus a bunch of Talokan fighters, and then Okoye versus Atuma, and they fought like several different times over the course of the movie. But I thought that those scenes were like really well done, because it showed to me Okoye's prowess, and also the fact that, like, back to what I said before, like the Talokan people are essentially like superhuman people, and the fact that she herself was able to like hold her own like in that fight against him was really dope. But at the same time, it was also crazy, because you kind of knew that he was like giving her a chance out of respect, because when Namora came over, she basically was just like, yo bro, like stop playing with your food, like just end this, because she is about her business. She don't got time for that. So I thought that the fight scene being between Atuma and Okoye was actually like really cool, but there are some like power displays or issues that I feel like Marvel really needs to figure out, because they've kind of had those issues since like phase 1, and they've not addressed it, and I feel like people are like finally starting to see it now, specifically within this movie, and so maybe they'll address it going forward, maybe they won't, I don't know. I did like this movie. I also thought the performances of the cast were really well done. From Angela Bassett to Denai to Lupita to Letitia, everybody did an incredible job in terms of like the acting, and I felt like watching the film, actually, you could tell that the movie was kind of cathartic to them to get out, you know, everything that they were feeling with the loss of Chadwick Boseman, and you could very much like see that on screen. So I think that was really awesome, and overall I really like this movie. I kind of feel like in some ways like it was better than the first Black Panther movie. Obviously like Chadwick Boseman not being in the movie was a hard pill to swallow, because you kind of like get taken back to the fact like, yeah, he's definitely not going to be able to play this role anymore. At the same time, I do feel like the filmmakers did a good job weaving in where the story is going to go. But overall, I like this movie. I thought it was a well-done sequel to Black Panther. I really liked what they did with Namor and how they're bringing in more mutant characters because, you know, they have the ability to do that now. So obviously we'll be seeing more of them. And I do look forward to see what the Black Panther franchise will have moving forward. So that'll be an interesting watch. Anywho, thanks so much for joining me for this review of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. As of the recording of this video, it is currently available on Disney+. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, more movie and TV reactions and reviews. And for The Struggle Is Real, I have been April, and I'll see you real soon. Peace!